Gotta be 16, or what do you get? Another day warmer and deeper in debt. Well, St. Peter, don't call me, 'cause I ain't free. I owe my soul to PG&E.
Let's all go inside and sign up to speak inside the Public Utilities Commission. Let our voices be heard. Let's take back the light, take back the mic. This is our voice, this is our time.
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioner. Good evening, Your Honor. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Colin Miller, and while I work at the Green Lighting Institute, I am not here representing the Green Lighting Institute this evening. I'm here representing myself. We're calling for a democratic alternative to the destructive control of our energy system by one corporation, and that corporation is PG&E. PG&E has done everything in its power, including blatantly deceiving California, brazenly defying the law, including the law set forth by the California Public Utilities Commission, and duplicitously defrauding its customers in $44 million to perpetuate their fossil fuel monopoly indefinitely. Their plan is simple. Proposition 16. Our struggle is that of many Davids against a powerful Goliath. PG&E thinks it has already won, but it wasn't counting on us. We are, in this room, and those of us not in this room, a non-violent uprising composed of diverse people from all walks of life with one simple demand: control of our own energy destiny. We ask you to support us and to join us in this movement. What do we want? We want local control of our energy, including setting our own lower energy rates with the community choice energy programs, not $6 billion in rate hikes. We want clean, green, locally produced renewable energy. We don't want poisonous fossil fuel plants that are killing our world, poisoning our water, ruining our children's chance for a better future. We want good, local green jobs in a sustainable and just economy that works for people, that provides a dignified and healthy living for all members of our community. We don't want false promises for green energy that PG&E never built and never intended to build. We don't want tradable renewable energy credits built in other states, or tradable renewable energy credits that actually go to existing renewable energy infrastructure, clean energy that they don't actually have to build more of. We don't want industrial scale renewables far from cities that will create few, if any, local jobs for our communities that are truly strapped, truly needing jobs right now. We want democratic community choice over our energy future, not an undemocratic 2/3 vote requirement before we can take charge of our own destiny. Please, don't let PG&E cement its powerful monopoly into California's Constitution. I'm here today with a very personal message because I just got out of the hospital a few days ago, actually. I have my hospital band on me still. And I was in the hospital for 6 days actually. I got out last Thursday, and I was there with appendicitis. I had surgery. I was in the worst pain of my entire life. I was on painkiller drugs that are 20 times more powerful than morphine. I didn't eat or drink for 6 days. I didn't use the bathroom for 6 days because my small intestine stopped working, and from the trauma of the surgery. And the reason I was in the hospital, I actually do blame PG&E's Prop 16 for the stress that I was in, because I was so personally committed to this cause, and I really do see that Proposition 16 is a linchpin in terms of stopping climate change. Prop 16 will really, really close the doors. It will really prevent us from implementing the greatest tool we have in our arsenal to fight climate change, which is community choice energy programs. In our analysis, in terms of the Local Clean Energy Alliance, analysis they've done in Oakland, analyzing what a community choice energy program could be, it really is catastrophically better than anything else that cities could do to promote clean energy local green jobs. We need this now, commissioners. And so I was inspired by a vision I had of the Promethean myth, the Greek legend, in which Prometheus steals the sacred fire from the gods, and Zeus, in his jealous rage, strikes Prometheus down and condemns him to a rock, and his liver is eaten out by a giant harpy eagle, and then his liver regenerates every day. And, I think that sacred fire today is energy. And in this case, PG&E is Zeus, wanting to hold on to the power monopoly of that sacred fire. And I think all of us in this room today are really Prometheans. We're really Prometheus that are actually hoping to take back that sacred fire, the energy for the people. If energy is coming from the sun and the wind and from the water and from geothermal for free, it should be free. It's a public right that we have to power, just as we have a public right to air, to water, and to other things. We have a right to life. We should have a right to life. So please, join us in taking back the light. Thank you very much for your time. Good evening.
Thank you. The next speaker is Joel Foster, followed by Ron Vance.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the previous presenters for a healthy dose of perspective. I do appreciate that. My name is Joel Foster. I am an employee of Pacific Gas and Electric Company, but I am not here representing or speaking on behalf of the company. I'm an elected leader of ESC Local 20. We are a labor union that represents about 2,500 professional technical engineers of Pacific Gas and Electric Company. And I really want to talk basically about one brief subject that we want to bring before the Commission, and that is how internal spending is done at PG&E, specifically in regards to contracting out and outsourcing of design and engineering jobs at PG&E. Now, our members live and work in the communities served by PG&E. I apologize. I'm usually too loud. And we want that to continue to be the case. Part of the general rate cases this go-around is a proposal of increasing the spending of the Rule 28 process. And what that means outside of PG&E's code terms is the undergrounding of overhead power lines. Now they want to double the amount of spending allocated each year, but at the same time they don't have a corresponding workforce action plan to hire, retain, and train individuals that would design these processes, or these underground projects. So we hope the Commission will look at that. Our concern is around the waste, about doing rework from outside contractors, a lot of times coming from out of state, coming in, designing things without the burden of living and having to operate these systems and living in these communities. And we want the Commission to address that. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ron Vance, followed by Leslie De Talliander. Is Mr. Vance here?
My name is Ron Vance. I'm a senior substation engineer with 31 years of experience at PG&E. I am not speaking on behalf of PG&E. In my career, I've worked on many substation projects around the system. I recently designed the Jefferson and Martin ends of a 230 kV cable installation that brought a significant amount of power to the San Francisco Peninsula, enough to power 300,000 homes. I am here to speak about PG&E's increasing use of contract engineers instead of in-house PG&E engineer positions. I am humbled to address you, and thank you for this opportunity for comment. PG&E has spent years developing its workforce. However, now I see a negative trend where PG&E is using outside contractors who don't have the same long-term relationship with our customers in California. Let me give you an example. I was working on a substation bank installation project at Ravenswood Substation on the San Francisco Peninsula. We had to extend the 115 kV bus 2 bays to accommodate the new bank. PG&E hired a contract engineering firm to do the design, procurement, and construction. When I reviewed their design, I saw that it was poor quality design. They tried to extend the bus only 1 bay and put both elements on 1 bay. This would have degraded the reliability and flexibility of that bank installation causing a bank outage every time the line was out. In other words, the contractor's design was cheaper to build in the short term, but would have had serious negative service impacts, negative service reliability impacts on our service territory. Another project is the 115 kV breaker and a half project going on in Mission right now in San Francisco, right here in San Francisco. This type of design is complicated and can be subject to failure if not engineered carefully. There aren't very many of these layouts in PG&E substations, but I've worked on all the breaker and a half schemes that serve the peninsula in San Francisco. PG&E hired a contract engineering company to design the breaker and a half arrangement, and their design had exactly the flaws that I had seen in other substations. I had to take a large amount of my time to explain the shortcomings to the contractor and to correct their design. Even though they weren't following our suggested design, they argued that theirs was better, and it's difficult to make it right. It's cases like this that make me believe that in-house employees are superior to contractors, both in terms of competence and their perspective on serving customers with long-term reliability. I hope the Commission will use this rate case proceeding to examine PG&E's over-reliance on outside contractors for engineering work. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. The next speaker is Leslie D'Italian, followed by someone who wrote down dude.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'd like to thank you very much for listening to our comments, and I really appreciate your time. My name is Leslie D'Italian, and I would like to read a short article written about the smart meters, written in March of this year. The President of the California Public Utilities Commission, Michael Peavy, told the legislature this month that the Commission shockingly did not do the most basic and essential field testing to investigate complaints about Pacific Gas and Electric Company's smart meters before ordering the utility to install them at millions of customers' homes and businesses. The utility apparently relied on tests supposedly done by the meter suppliers. There are already hundreds, now this was back in March, so now we're at 50,000 complaints from honest customers about how their power bills have soared after the smart meters were installed. These complaints cannot be ignored. Now, there was no testing for accuracy of rates. There's no testing for health safety issues. These meters emit microwave radiation 24/7, day and night. I'm asking, this is totally irresponsible. I ask for a moratorium on the smart meters now. There are other ways to, other than using Wi-Fi, such as using fiber optics, and I even understand possibly even using telephone lines. But Wi-Fi is not the only means of getting this technology, the smart meter, to work. I thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker wrote that person's name is dude, so hear that.
I am. Thank you all. Now, like the rest of you, I'm here essentially with what I feel is more or less a mission of mercy. Because what is happening right now is basically vital to our very life on this planet. This has been happening all over in this country essentially, and now it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And we all know, we all know PG&E's horror story essentially originally involving, remember the story of one Aaron Brockovich, and PG&E basically trying to bury all that hidden waste essentially where? There's a small town rural trailer park. Now, of course, I know that's supposed to be all in the past, but the problem is, essentially, it's not just PG&E. Every single major corporation is they're all merging and battling together. The evils, they're all teaming up, and they're all doing this. They are all essentially, basically teaming up, and the thing is, they've already got the biggest piece of the pie. They got pretty much all the pie, but they want our share too. I mean, it's money, it's power, no matter how much you have, everybody wants more. And the big problem with that is it doesn't just come from nowhere. I mean, essentially, considering that and the dead peasant policy, essentially, they're making billions and billions off our labor, which is fine. I mean, but they were doing that before. The thing is, now they're taking what is even less than our fair share. They're taking our own harder, they're taking our own essential, which is less than what we deserve, what we need to survive, what we need to so much as have a reason to smile. And the thing is, without society, without basically, we all want to say we can't do without money, but the thing is, money is basically, I mean, look around, money is putting all this together. Money is building our society, our business. It's basically keeping commerce going and trade. Without it, we're right back in the dark ages. And I know basically everyone's going to say essential things aren't quite so bad. Maybe there's hope. The thing is, okay, take a look at the Soviet Union, for example. Now, essentially, they were doing more or less what America's doing, but with communism instead of democracy. And they broke us up essentially, and it looks like every single day that's getting worse in America. It's not even it's not even basically the politicians that are in power anymore. It's the corporations. They have all of everything. They have all of what we have, and it's only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse until we basically draw a line in the sand right now, right here, and say no more. There's an alarmingly high body count. I mean, yes, America's the richest country on the planet, but think about the people who are really getting all the money, the ones who are making all the wealth. I mean, it's essentially, and the elite few are making zillions, and the rest of us are withering and dying. My suggestion, I think things have gotten already bad enough. We need to stop this thing before it gets any worse. Because believe me, it's going to get a lot worse. America is, after all this time, America's going to become a third world country. Now, England couldn't destroy us, the Russians, the Germans, during all the wars, the Middle East couldn't destroy us. What is going to level America? The enemy within. It seems like essentially 9/11 came exactly at the time when basically we're all waving our flags essentially when our own country is betraying us. This country is ours, and people, I think it's overdue time for us to take it back. It's not just PG&E, but I mean Walmart, essentially, Costco, all those major conglomerates. They're taking everything. They're destroying us. They're bleeding us dry, and they're taking everything. And in a way, it's our fault, too, because we're just sitting back and letting it happen. People are as evil as they're allowed to be. You know, there has to be consequences. We've got to do something. We've got to do it now. The American healthcare industry is a contradiction in terms. Everything's a joke. The country's a joke. I'm going to get out there and do something about this right now. I've been doing something. I'm doing it right here, and I've been doing it out there. I'm doing it everywhere. What about you? When you all leave here tonight, when you walk out that door, please, don't make coming into this room or even speaking at this mic the last and only the biggest thing you do. Put an end to this evil. Thank you. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you. The next speaker is Susan Van Rootgen, it looks like. Is she here? Okay, then the next speaker will be Mary Beth Brangen. Is Ms. Brangen here? The next speaker then is Jennifer Joes Wolf.
Didn't expect to be the last. I don't know, where am I? It's very late, I'm sorry. Dear Commissioners and Judge, thank you so much for hearing all of this out. I strongly urge a no vote on the proposed PG&E tier changes that would change the residential pricing in tiers 1 and 2 for low monthly users and decrease pricing for high users in the 3, 4, and 5 tiers. This tier pricing consolidation would create an incentive for high-use homeowners to use more power. People with large electricity usage are going to be paying less on average for their power than those who live more modest lifestyles and conserve power. How can we progress with efforts to conserve more electricity and make it desirable to pursue other electric generation options like solar without the price of electricity going up as you use more of it. Despite PG&E's operating the mandated energy efficiency programs, they have reported 70% of the energy savings they have promised. They are facing ratepayer revolt from the Central Valley customers that have high usage. And obviously not enough people are benefiting from these energy efficiencies to bring rates down during the summer. So PG&E wants to switch costs from high energy users onto the backs of the low users. One has to ask, and here's just my thought. Why doesn't PG&E make incentives for consumer purchases of existing technologies, such as which is already in use in Australia, the solar hybrid air conditioner? Yes. It exists. It's for sale. These solar air conditioners would continually save 38 to 50% over a conventional air conditioner and eliminate the high demand at peak times, as well as save up to 6.64 tons of greenhouse gas emissions per unit. This cost for an air conditioner such as these, which already exist, is about $2,000. But of course, PG&E is a for-profit corporation. So what they should do, and that what is good for the planet and what is good for customers, doesn't equal big payoffs for the shareholders. PG&E can greenwash their image all they want. The truth is, they won't meet California's mandated 20% renewable energy sourcing. They would rather spend $44 million and counting on the misleading Proposition 16 campaign to stifle sustainable and affordable competition and lock in customers with higher rates. Please, I urge you, please don't reward companies for doing the wrong things. Don't reward PG&E with higher rates. Thank you.
The speaker who just spoke asked or was talking about the different tier rates, and users who are in tiers 1 and 2 are under the statute, they're not faced with any increases as far as the tier changes. The commission last week voted out collapsing the tiers 4 and 5 so that users in tier 3 pay a little bit more, and users in tier 4, some of them experience a slightly increased rates, but the ones who use the higher usage in tier 5, they would be paying a lesser percentage as compared to what differential had existed before. So that decision was voted out by the commission last week.
There are a lot more people in tier 3.
And the final speaker this evening is Bruce Wolf. Is Mr. Wolf present?
Yes.
Thank you.
We're a little tired and crotchety. Don't mind us if we're slow.
Just shoot him.
Thank you, Your Honor, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you for your attention on these important matters. I'll be speaking about a number of organizations tonight, of which I am a member of, and most, if not all of them, are opposing Prop 16, but I'm not here representing those organizations. I'm currently entering my third term as a member of the San Francisco Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. And so I know the open meeting laws and the public disclosure acts fairly well of this state and elsewhere in this country. And while this meeting, while not a special or a regular official meeting, I think some of those provisions, either in the Bagley-Keene Act or the Brown Act, should be applied. So I thank you for taking some consideration on that and actually having some discussion about it. I really appreciate that. We don't get to hear that often.
The notices for this public participation hearing were in the bill inserts of PG&E as well as in the Commission's calendar.
I understand that. Notices in a bill is, in my view, not appropriate because it's a private entity and should not be given the authority to do that unless there is actually some law or something that the body has passed that said that they must do it, which may have been the case.
The Commission did issue a ruling
Okay.
ordering PG&E to provide that notice to all its customers.
It's just, it's unusual for a lot of people. I think that's why you hear the concern. I had returned to school after a serious work injury about 20 years ago, and during that time I became an intern at a state legislator's office during the time of the Enron meltdown. And then soon later, after the PG&E bankruptcy situation, we were experiencing only blackouts and brownouts all the time. The bailout for PG&E came in the form of billions of dollars that were spent within a year, and actually probably within by the end of that summer that this was happening. And what was my concern was, as a student, we were fighting against possible increases in tuition at tech costs, what's called registration or class fees in the state. At the same time, there was the billions of dollars that were spent to bail out PG&E were of surplus in the state of California. At that time, we had a surplus. And that money was meant to be spent on rebuilding every public school in the state. That money was then raided and used to bail out PG&E. And I was very concerned about that, having worked in this legislator's office and being asked, questions like, what do we do, what do we do, what do we do? I spoke to my father about it, just as a matter of, he's also a resident of the state of California. And our conclusion was, don't bail them out, let the state go black, and let the federal government help us out. Let FERC be the ones to help us out. That didn't seem to go over too well with the person I was working with, but thought it was an innovative idea. But at the time, that was the sentiment. With regards to Prop 16, I wanted to say that while Prop 16 wants us to vote on how our local governments will spend its money to go into the electricity business, we currently, as ratepayers, don't get a vote on how PG&E spends its money. The only way that happens is if we were shareholders. But PG&E is under a local franchise agreement, which is uncontrovertible with regards to any competition, unless a city chooses to vote its way out of it. And that is of great concern to me, because at that point, there is still no competition. There's no level of competition. It's a very high bar for it. And under those agreements, the terms of those rate changes that you're about to consider coming up should be left on behalf of and determined by the people who signed that local franchise agreement. And if not, statewide should be voted on by the ratepayers of the state. They are currently the only vendor of record with regards to supplying energy, let's say here in San Francisco. We are not allowed to use Hetch Hetchy power, but the rest of the city is. Our local government is allowed to, as if they are separate from the residents. Kind of odd, and still after all these years, very odd to me and many people. And finally, on the subject of Prop 16, their involvement in Prop 16 should be prohibited by you.
Yes.
Because they are part and parcel of a contract that each and every municipality that buys or gets their electricity from them, they are part of. And no contractor should try to seal a deal where they are now the future forever, because it would be very high bar for voters at a 2/3 level to vote its way out of a current situation. As we know, have that situation with our budget. So I would say that by your hand, you should prohibit a company like PG&E or any other company that has local franchise agreements or any contracts from being able to mount a campaign of this magnitude with this amount of money to be able to crush and steamroller ratepayers and voters in the state of California. This is not about taxpayers at all, because even in your jurisdiction with regards to PG&E, we're talking about ratepayers.
You gotta be 16, or what do you get? Another day warmer and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I ain't free. I owe my